Welcome back. Israelis are heading to the polls next week to choose among party candidates to serve in the 120-seat Knesset. A recent survey showed that Israel's Labour Party leader Isaac Herzog is maintaining its lead. However, Palestinians believe that the upcoming Israeli elections will not bring any change in relations between the two states. From the Afro-Middle East Center, or AMEC, we are joined by Na'eem Jeenah to look at the upcoming elections in Israel. Good evening, Na'eem, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening. Thank you, Luna.
Now, you must be in contact with people in Israel. What is the mood like there?
Well, as usual before elections, lots of electioneering campaigning going on. Media is full with stories about the elections, etc. So certainly among Jewish Israelis, lots of excitement, kind of normal election excitement.
Israelis go to the poll next week on the 17th. They'll be electing a party, not a prime minister. Do we expect coalitions?
Absolutely. I mean, Israeli politics is all about coalitions, partly because of the kind of electoral system they have, similar to ours, except that we have one party that gets most of the votes all the time thus far. So they've always had coalitions, and there most definitely will be a coalition government after this election as well.
What surprises, if any, should we expect?
I don't think that there's going to be much of a surprise. Certainly, I mean, the contest at the moment, as the media is putting it, is between the Likud party of Netanyahu and the so-called Zionist Union, the Labour Party, Herzog's Labour Party, and Tzipi Livni's party. But neither of the parties will, of course, get a majority in the election. So whichever party has the more number of votes will likely be the one that will put together a coalition to rule the country as a government. So you'll find that the government will most likely be a coalition of 4 to 5 parties. Chances are that even if the Zionist Union with Herzog doing as well as he is, even if they do get more seats or win more seats than the Likud party, there's a good chance that Likud will actually be the one that will be forming the new government, because they have more parties that will come into a coalition with them than the other way around.
Now, Israeli-Palestinian politics, has it been used as an electioneering campaigning for all the different parties?
Not by all the parties. I mean, certainly Netanyahu and the Likud party has been using it, and they're quite good at using as they call it, the security issue as a campaign tool, or as a part of their campaign platform. But most of the parties actually up to now have been focusing on domestic issues. And perhaps it's a way in which to draw support away from Likud, because Likud is not focusing as much on domestic issues, and because Likud actually has a bad record, certainly under Netanyahu the past few years, in terms of domestic issues. I mean, one of the parties is campaigning, its main campaign platform is housing. So those are the kind of issues. There isn't too much, as I say, focus from all of the parties on Palestinians themselves.
Now, what does this election really mean for Palestinians?
Well, that depends on which Palestinians you're talking about, and maybe I should have ended my last answer by saying that actually one of the parties, and some polls suggest that they will get the third highest number of seats, is what is being called the joint list, which essentially is 4 Palestinian parties and the Communist Party, which is partly Palestinian, mostly Palestinian, but also Jewish. So when I say it depends on which Palestinians you're talking about, certainly for Palestinian refugees outside of the Palestine-Israel kind of borders, who make up the majority of Palestinians around the world, these elections will mean nothing, absolutely nothing at all. For Palestinians living in the West Bank and Gaza and in East Jerusalem, I think that the results of the election are going to mean the end of any hope of a Palestinian state and of a two-state solution. Whatever government is going to come in, whether it's Netanyahu or anyone else is the prime minister, there's very little chance that it'll be moving anywhere to the left of Likud. And so I think that you're going to see the final nails in the coffin of the two-state solution. But for Palestinians, Palestinian citizens of Israel, who make up about 20% of the Israeli population, this is actually quite an exciting election. For the first time, the various Palestinian, or as they call them, Arab parties, have come together to contest the elections on a single list. The result of that is that many more Palestinians will vote than have voted in the past. And a few thousand, I mean not a large number, but a few thousand Jewish citizens will also support the joint list. So I think for them it's going to be interesting, and they could turn out to be, in a sense, kingmakers in the coalition building.
Now, what sort of change would they expect with regards to the new government? What should the new government do differently, whether it is a coalition or not, or whether Netanyahu is still leader or not?
You mean for Palestinians?
For the Palestinians, yes.
I think that what Palestinians would like, certainly in the West Bank and Gaza and East Jerusalem Palestinians, what they would like is for any new Israeli government to restart a negotiations process towards the creation of a Palestinian state, the right of return of Palestinian refugees, and basically Palestinians winning all their rights, both within the occupied territories as well as within Israel. And certainly for Palestinians that are refugees living in the neighboring countries, they would like a new Israeli government that will start talking about the right of return of Palestinian refugees. None of this is going to happen, though.
Now, Israel's Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman has called for disloyal Israeli Arab minority to be beheaded. Is this not inciting genocide?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a classical case of hate speech. Unfortunately, there's going to be no consequences against him for this kind of incitement, hate speech, etc. But it's not the kind of speech that Lieberman is unused to. The hatred that he has spewed in election campaigns and throughout the past few years has been quite extreme against Palestinian citizens, as in this case, Palestinian citizens of Israel. They are citizens, but also against Palestinians in the occupied territories. He himself is an illegal settler in the occupied territories, and so his hatred extends to both inside and outside of Israel.
And now, could we brace ourselves for any relation from pro-Palestinian groups?
What do you mean, any relation?
With regards to the pro-Palestinian groups that are in favor of Palestine and the Palestinians, should we brace ourselves for any relations from them working together as the parties have been working together?
Well, I mean, you're seeing within Israel the Palestinian parties there working together. Outside of the Israeli Palestinians, certainly there's lots of talk of Palestinian reconciliation. Not too much action, but lots of talk, and perhaps that's a place to start. I think that the new Israeli government is going to, because of the positions it's going to take, is going to convince Palestinians in the occupied territories that the future really is in cooperating with each other. So whether you're talking about Fatah, Hamas, whichever groups, that they really need to work together if they want to overcome their Israeli enemy as they would regard it. And so I think that we could see after the elections a more determined effort by some sections of Palestinian political parties to try and forge closer working relations between them.
Na'eem, thank you so much for joining us. That was our guest Na'eem Jeenah from Afro-Middle East Center speaking to us about the upcoming elections in Israel.